I'm excited. I'm very excited because this could be getting a very big update next year. A little while ago, I said that I wouldn't make any videos based on Apple rumors because they don't come true, and basing your buying guidance on a rumor is a bad idea. I still believe that's the case. However, it's December 2025 and I'm sitting here making a video about Apple rumors. The reason for that, however, is firstly, what else can we talk about at this time of the year apart from looking forward to next year and seeing what might happen with Apple? And secondly, one of those rumors is about the iPad mini. And if it's true, it's game changing and it's got me really excited. And I thought we could just have a chat in general about where the iPad could go in 2026. Because if we look at what happened in 2025, we had the new base model iPad, the 11th generation with an A16 chip. We had the iPad Air. That didn't change either, apart from the M3 chip being put inside. And the iPad Pro had the M5 chip put into it. And all three of those iPads are fantastic. They're perfect for the right users. However, this didn't get any kind of update. And there's a couple of things that people want from this. This is the iPad mini, by the way. It's the best iPad Apple has ever made. But there's a few things that people want from this that may come next year. Let's get into it. Let's start with the base model iPad, which is, to some, the most boring iPad on the planet because it's just an iPad. But to others, and I think to a great many people, it's the best choice out there. And I completely agree with that crowd. This is the 10th generation in dirty yellow. Not the best color, but that's completely irrelevant because it is brilliant. And basically, if anyone comes to me and says, Mark, my iPad Air from 4 years ago is now dead, what should I do? Get this, get the 10th, get the 11th generation, which is the current one, or next year, if you want to get a new iPad next year, apparently, according to the rumor mill, we're getting the A18 chip in the next base model iPad, which means it has the same chip, or it will have the same chip as the iPhone 16e, which doesn't sound very exciting, but it does mean that it will have access to Apple Intelligence, which it's important. It means it comes in line with everything else pretty much in Apple's arsenal. It's just the obvious choice for most people, which makes the job of the iPad Air, the iPad mini, and the iPad Pro particularly difficult. So what have we got in store for those iPads next year? Oh, the iPad Air. Okay, so in the past, I've said that this is one of Apple's greatest triumphs because it sits perfectly in between the base model iPad and the iPad Pro. You know, if the iPad Pro is too expensive, too out there for you, and if you just don't want the base model iPad because you don't want the cheapest iPad out there, this is perfect. And we now have two different sizes. There's the 11-inch and the 13-inch, and it has so much power. This is the M1 version. This is still an incredibly powerful iPad. It's just as good as a lot of MacBooks that are out there. It's ridiculous. And for that reason, it's, again, very hard not to recommend if you don't want the base model one. And if your budget doesn't stretch to the iPad Pro, then it's just perfect. It illustrates why Apple is the best in the game at making tablets. There's nothing else on the market as good as this range that we're looking at here. However, this does need to change a bit, and I think one thing that is starting to grate is that display. So it's still a 60 Hz display, and we have iPhones now from the iPhone 17 upwards that all have ProMotion 120 Hz refresh rate displays. This needs that same technology. Now I know if Apple puts a ProMotion display in the iPad Air next year, that puts even more pressure on the iPad Pro to be different, but I'll come on to that in a second. If you go from your iPhone 17 to your iPad Air at the moment, it's jarring. And that's a shame. Does it need anything else? Not really. Are there any other rumors for next year? Oh, the M4 chip. The chances are we're going to get an M4 powered iPad Air in 2026, which again is just, it's almost too much power. But that display needs to change. Just a very quick word from today's sponsor, which is Paperlike. This goes on to every iPad I have in this studio, which is a lot of iPads. It's basically a screen protector that does two things. Firstly, it protects that very expensive iPad display. And secondly, it makes that display feel like paper. Very difficult to get across on this video, obviously, but trust me, the first time that you use Paperlike, you will be mesmerized because it feels and sounds exactly like paper. And if you do a lot of writing, a lot of drawing, a lot of illustrating, if you do any kind of work on your iPad with an Apple Pencil, the Paperlike is an absolute must buy. And the third generation is even easier to apply. They've got this new butterfly mechanism, which means you don't get the dust that you get on lots of other screen protectors, and getting rid of those bubbles is very straightforward. If I can apply this thing, trust me, you can as well. Paperlike is a no-brainer for me, and I think it might be a no-brainer for you. Go and check out that link in the description. The iPad Pro. I promise I'm getting to the main event very soon, but before that, this is the 13-inch version, and in here, by the way, this is the Logitech Flip Folio with a hidden magnetic keyboard. We'll link to a video about this at the end of this one because it's a fascinating and very divisive product. Anyway, 13-inch, 11-inch, this is the M4 iPad Pro, this is the M2 version. I've reviewed the M5, and my conclusion about the M5, in fact about the iPad Pro in general, is the fact that it's for two types of people. Firstly, people who want the best, who just want the best iPad out there for whatever reason, and it may just be because they want the best. That's absolutely fine. I'm not judging you, no one should judge you for that. The second type of person is the person who can make the most out of these iPad Pros, and I don't know what you're doing with it if that's you, but I'm jealous, I'm impressed, and I think you're quite a small portion of the market, but you're out there clearly, because why would Apple keep putting this incredibly impressive hardware into these stupidly thin Pro tablets? I don't know, but that they do it for a reason, and you are using them for a reason. So that is absolutely fine. In terms of next year, I don't think we're going to see a new iPad Pro. I think the M5 is going to be the one that we have now for 2026, and then 2027 something else will happen. We'll get the M6 in there, or maybe the M7, who knows. So that's the iPad Pro. Let's just get to the iPad Mini, shall we? The iPad Mini. By the way, mine's in a Harbour London case. We're not sponsored by these guys, but they make lovely premium leather slip cases for iPads and MacBooks and everything. So go and check them out. We'll put a link in the description. But the iPad Mini 7, this came out in, well, towards the end of 2024, and it's got the A17 Pro chip. It had compatibility with the Apple Pencil Pro included, and some other tweaks internally, but nothing else changed. So the design is the same, which is fine because it's just the best iPad Apple has ever made in terms of ergonomics and the form factor. One thing that did remain the same is the display. They didn't change that display at all. It's still a 60 Hertz panel, and it's the same issue as the iPad Air. So if you've got an iPhone 17 and you've got an iPad Mini, if you go from your iPhone 17 to your iPad Mini, it's jarring. It just feels slower than it is because that refresh rate is just it's just not nice. And I've defended Apple for this, and I can't do it any longer. And I think my use case for the iPad Mini has waned as a result. So I've used this thing less. It basically spends most of its life out of shot on this camera just down here with the notes for the video that I'm filming. That's pretty much what my iPad Mini does. I occasionally take notes with it with the Apple Pencil Pro, but that's it. I've stopped using it for media consumption, and it doesn't really travel with me anymore. However, now I've got this lovely slipcase and all that stuff, I want to take it out more and I want to do things with it, and I will. However, we might have some very good news, unless you've just bought an iPad Mini, in which case you won't want to buy it again next year. But let's just put that to one side for a second. All rumours point towards a much bigger iPad Mini update, and by that I mean we're getting, hopefully, fingers crossed, please Tim, please, an OLED ProMotion display in the 8th generation iPad Mini in 2026. It's gonna happen. It's got to happen. It has to happen. Please. I know I said I'd never comment and get excited about Apple rumors, but imagine it. Imagine that ProMotion display, an OLED panel as well on the iPad Mini. Can you just picture that? Oh, if they do that, and if they add in my other massive request for the iPad Mini, which is a mini Magic Keyboard, I'll just be the happiest person on the planet next year. The other rumor is that it's going to get a chip update as well. I mean, it's already very powerful, but that is just so exciting. I know I've made you wait until now in this video to talk about the most exciting thing about the iPad next year, but that's how YouTube works. I want to keep you watching, but also I want to get you talking down there in the comments, so please get involved. What do you want from the iPad in 2026? The iPad Mini, the Air, the Pro, the base model, something else, who knows? Get involved, let me know, and if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, but you've been watching it for a while and you've been enjoying these videos, give that button a click. See you down there.